Good afternoon. You are on to News Panorama from Jos Network Center. As Nigeria continues to grapple with the challenge of COVID, total of 65 confirmed cases, medical experts continue to emphasize that personal hygiene and social distancing are very crucial in curbing the spread of the virus. And with the associated panic across the country, religious and traditional rulers are urging Nigerians to be calm and remain steadfast in prayers. These and more on News Panorama. I'm Caleb Guchin. President Muhammadu Buhari has commended all relevant agencies, private organizations, traditional and religious leaders on their efforts in fighting the spread of COVID-19 in the country. Ruth Aguele has details.
The president particularly recognized willingness for self-isolation, social distancing, and contributions of public-spirited individuals and institutions who consistently mobilize resources to supplement efforts of federal and state governments. The president, in a statement by his senior special assistant on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, extols state governments, religious bodies, health workers, federal government agencies, including security outfits and manufacturers associations of Nigeria for rising to the occasion to protect the country and its citizens, assuring that the government will remain steadfast in deploying more resources to lessen the burden of the pandemic. President Buhari further reassures that efforts being taken to curtail the spread of the virus will not affect production and distribution of food, medications, medical equipment, and other essentials as the nation wades through the global health challenge, which already portends for their economic strains. The president directs all relevant agencies and regulators to provide an enabling environment for industries to sustain their operations by ensuring reasonable access to industrial supplies and inputs like water, fuel, gas, and essential infrastructure, and relaxing the stringent laws, commending the Central Bank of Nigeria and commercial banks for the interventions to make forex and credit more accessible to those on the manufacturing line, and giving assurances of firm support for the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria by proactively addressing the potential impact of the pandemic on the Nigerian economy. The president requested that all necessary measures be put in place to protect and promote the health and safety of industrial workers. President Buhari calls on all leaders across the country, including religious and traditional leaders, to further support the federal and state governments in the ongoing sensitization programs on the need to stay at home and keep a safe distance in the public. The president affirms that a collective effort will make a historic difference in checking the spread of COVID-19 and keeping citizens alive.
The federal government has restated its determination in adopting an aggressive approach in enforcing measures at containing the spread of COVID-19. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed announced this at a media briefing in Abuja. Anthony Forson reports.
The truth is that time is running out. If we don't urgently and more aggressively enforce the measures.
Indeed, time is running out. It is in view of this that the Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed explained that the federal government's tough measures will include stopping interstate and intertown travels except on essential services, closing all motor parks and interstate rail stations just as train services have been suspended. The federal government will also deploy firefighting and adaptable vehicles and personnel to fumigate cities and towns.
We'll be considering and announcing new measures from time to time, but rest assured that whatever decisions we take will be in the best interest of Nigerians.
The federal government, the minister added, is taking measures to increase the number of bed spaces for isolation for suspects. With Nigeria recording 51 cases so far, there are over 4,300 people of interest who are being traced.
Many are busy engaging in meaningless criticisms instead of complying with stipulated directives to keep people safe. Some Nigerians who flee into the from overseas filled wrong addresses and phone numbers in their forms, making it difficult to trace them when the need arises. Some Nigerians defied orders to stay away from large gatherings, while some religious leaders willfully flouted the directives to ensure social distancing. Some people up to now live in denial. They claim it will not be their portion.
The minister, however, cleared the air on the rising instances of fake news, which he said is not helping the fight against the pandemic. For instance, he said the story about only 2 ventilators in Abuja and 1 moved to the villa is false, just as the report of a British Airways flight, which was due to land in Nigeria on Wednesday, is also another fake news. Most worrisome is the story on President Muhammadu Buhari. He, however, expressed gratitude to airlines who have suspended their operations, describing it as a boost to government's effort in checking the spread of the pandemic. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
Total lockdown is the most effective way to stop the spread of COVID-19, says the president of Nigerian Medical Association, Dr. Francis Faduile, at a press briefing in Abuja to advocate for a better approach at all levels on efforts to contain and to manage coronavirus disease in the country. Hakinat Aliyu brings us the details.
Nigeria continues to record more cases of COVID-19. The Nigerian Medical Association, as a professional body in the health sector, calls on the federal government to take uniform stand for effective measures to interrupt the chain of transmission.
Once we get those who have been infected and they are treated, that is the end of that scourge. The moment you still allow this movement, it is most likely that one way or the other, that infection, once you get to that community, it will spread and will keep going around the same circle over and over. So what we need is a federal agreement so that everybody stop that movement and we can contain that disease.
Dr. Francis Fadili advises health workers to ensure strict adherence to infection prevention to protect themselves, as well as educate the public on the advantage of social distancing and proper use of gloves and face masks.
It is wrong for anybody to think that hand gloves protects. You want to do an event and you're at high risk at that event, you put the hand gloves. After finishing the hand glove, you remove it there and you wash your hand with soap and water. If you are going within the street, you don't need to put hand glove. Face mask is a special gadget that must be used as it should be. Some people put face mask from morning to evening, and when you are sitting there, when they want to talk, they use their hand to touch it, bring it down.
NMA also advises states, including the Federal Capital Territory, to mobilize healthcare volunteers to assist in containing the spread of COVID-19. In Abuja, Hakimat Aliyu, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has saluted the public spiritedness of wealthy Nigerians and organizations for standing up to be counted in the battle against the COVID-19 pandemic. The president commends members of Nigerian Private Sector Coalition against COVID-19, made up of people like Aliko Dangote, Abdul Samad Rabiu of Bua Group, Femi Odetola, Tony Elumelu, Herbert Igwe, Shegun Agbaje, and Jim Ovia of UBA, Access, GTB, and Zenith Banks, respectively. Details in our subsequent bulletin. Commercial vehicle operators and keke napep drivers in Jos still carry the normal passengers of 3 per seat. which provides no room for social distance between passengers. Kim Godds, who monitored the situation in various motor parks in Jos metropolis, reported that passengers expressed concern over the situation, which they say could be dangerous in case of any outbreak of COVID-19.
The parks visited include NTA Park, Plateau Riders and Tricycle Terminal in Jos. At the entrance of the parks, running water in buckets and hand sanitizers are made available for passengers, supervised by security personnel and park officials.
Adherence to social distancing, record keeping of all contacts of inbound and outbound passengers, as well as mass gathering prohibition in motor parks are part of measures put in place by the Plateau State government to curtail the spread of coronavirus.
We are 3 inside the car and there's this little bit of closeness and contacts between us. So I'm being careful. If you see, I'm with my own mask.
People together in the car, it's not a good measure.
Commercial tricycle riders, on their part, still maintain 3 passengers on back seat, an additional 1 in front, an indication nothing has changed.
We almost try to do that, but nothing like information that comes to us that we should not carry more than how we used to carry.
With coronavirus ravaging the nation, officials of Motor Park say transport fare is normal.
We're even thinking of reducing the prices of our fares due to the reduction in petroleum industry.
Activities at the Ahmadu Bello Way, the business nerve center of Jos metropolis, is relatively low with closure of shops. In Jos, Kim Godds, NTA News.
The debut of the COVID-19 disease in Nigeria, stringent measures have been put in place to avert the spread of the virus, including the order for closure of businesses and public places, except for food items, pharmaceuticals, as well as cooking gas. Zinret the Moon went round town to find out the level of compliance by citizens.
It was an unusually smooth ride through Jos metropolis as residents seemed to be complying to the directive by both federal and state governments to stay home and practice safe hygiene as a way to avert the dreaded COVID-19 pandemic. At the Ahmadu Bello Way and Terminus Market, there is a high level of compliance as only traders selling food items were seen transacting business, while others lamented on how difficult it is to cope while staying off their business places.
What are we going to eat without people buying something from us?
Their decision is good because of what is happening.
Like me, if I didn't come to market, while I go there my house, now I come, see a roast yam, see yam under here. All of them, no people, where they go buy the yam. At the Feringada market, people were trooping in large numbers to purchase items in bulk, which they say is the only way they can stay home comfortably.
Everybody is trying to buy food and keep at home, so that even though government said stay indoor for 1 week or 2 weeks, it's not too much to give to ourselves, for our health, for our children, for our house, for our future.
When we close this shop, those that cannot afford to keep something in their house, that is where the problem lies. I don't know if there is any means we can give something to those poor masses.
It will be very difficult for other people to get money to buy things like the food stuff to stock.
While the initiative to shut down businesses and public places has been described as a good one, people are hoping for a more permanent solution to the global pandemic. In Jos, Zenra Dingmun, NTA News.
And from Lafia, Isa Mohammed reports that markets and motor parks authorities are enforcing directives to curb the spread of COVID-19 with hand washing, application of hand sanitizers and face masks. However, the social distancing as preventive measure is not fully implemented. Meanwhile, tests are underway for Governor Abdullahi Sule and Deputy Governor Emmanuel Akabi for COVID-19 status following previous interactions with confirmed cases.
Also, His Excellency, because he was at the meeting of the National Economic Council last week, and at that meeting was the Governor of Bauchi State and other people, he decided that he should have his samples taken just to be sure that he is clear of everything. And in the same light, I insisted also that I have mine taken as well, so that if anything has let us know that let us know they're all in the clear. It's just precautionary. It's not that we're down in anything. I'm still kicking, very agile and active, and we're expecting that before the end of today, or by early morning tomorrow, we'll have the results of the candidate in Dash, His Excellency, and myself.
I have in the studio Dr. Bob Wada Pokop, a medical consultant and a member Association of Public Health Physicians, Plateau State Branch. Doctor, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
I hope this is the recommended distance.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
The distance is adequate.
Thank you very much. So the COVID-19 is here with us in Nigeria with the latest figure of 65 so far.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here?
Well, thank you very much. I thank you for this opportunity. The Association of Public Health Physicians of Nigeria recently concluded its conference here in Jos, and as a state chairman, we've been mandated to engage the media to ensure that we curb the spreading of this COVID-19. As you can see, within this week, the numbers kept rising. Now we're at 65, and more testings, on the way, just to see those who have had contacts with the confirmed cases, whether they have come down with it or not. Now, as a way of curbing this, which the federal government, I commend the federal government's effort, the state's effort, Plateau State, and all other states who have taken some drastic measures to ensure that we stop the spread of COVID-19. Yes, that is commendable, but beyond just total lockdown, as been said by the enemy president, we should go beyond that to ensure contact tracing. Contact tracing of those who have had contacts with those who have confirmed test results that is positive. And that's what the Nigerian Center for Disease Control is trying to do. By the time we ensure total lockdown, we should ensure that people are tested. Contact tracing is very key. It's not just enough to say, oh yes, everybody stay at home. But you may have people staying at home with the disease. But testing is very key in identifying those who have the disease, so that they don't transmit to those who are at home and don't have the disease. Somebody may have the disease and he's staying at home. He may transmit the disease to those in his household if he's not tested or she's not tested to know whether she has the disease or not.
So that takes us to the next question now. What's the position of public health physicians and practitioners, towards coping this virus?
Yeah, our position is, yes, we commend government and NCDC and all the states that are making efforts to ensure we get this. Our position is, yes, let's provide more of the testing kits and decentralized testing. At the moment now, when you take sample from Plateau State, for instance, you can only take it to Abuja for testing. You see, it takes the time, the logistics, and all of that. But when you decentralize it, and you have standard laboratories that can do this testing in all the 36 states of the Federation, including FCT, it makes it easier to even cascade it down to the local government areas of the states. So, but now at the moment, this over-centralization, as public health physicians, we advocate that we should decentralize it so that more people will get tested. By the time we get more people getting tested, it helps us to identify those who really have and those who do not have. And then going from there, our position as Association of Public Health Physicians is when you talk about quarantine, this self-isolation at home is supposed to be a quarantine center. Quarantine is different from isolation center. When you isolate cases, those that you've already confirmed that they have cases. But you quarantine those who are suspects. That means those who have had contact with a confirmed case, or those who have been to places where there is the epicenter of the distribution of this, especially if you check the epidemiology of those that have been confirmed already. Most of them came from those countries that are like the epicenter of the spreading of COVID-19. So by the time anybody has had contact, instead of saying stay at home and self-isolate, you see, isolation is for those that are confirmed cases. But quarantine, you're giving the maximum incubation period of the disease to manifest. That is why we said they should be quarantined in a place for 14 days. Now, most centers or most states, I don't think we're prepared for the actual quarantine when it comes to public health, dealing with pandemics or epidemics, outbreak, how to manage it. You should get a place that is comfortable. All those that have had contact should be there. Not just be there self-isolating. You'll be monitoring them with thermometers to ensure that their temperatures are not rising. They don't develop some of the symptoms that, that is associated with COVID-19, like the fever, the cough, or the difficulty in breathing. So those are things you monitor, and then you take action immediately for those who start developing that. Prompt treatment in order to ensure that they don't come down with
I'm sure there are efforts to get there. But let's take our last question now. So what other measures do you think stakeholders need to take to help Nigeria overcome the pandemic?
Well, thank you very much. I think all hands must be on deck. We need to train and retrain more health workers and volunteers in preparedness. More people need to be trained so that in case we are faced with a situation where you have more people coming down with it, it's easier for us to mobilize everybody to come together to help. And then we need to provide PPEs. They must be available everywhere in all the health facilities, in the isolation centers, in even the quarantine centers, so the health workers will protect themselves because they are worst hit at the moment. So we must do everything to ensure all that is available.
Sure, before we go, there will be a word for the citizens. So
yes, of course. The citizens, avoid, shaking hands, close contact. Anybody sneezing, the face masks that people are using indiscriminately, is not advisable. Face masks should be used by health professionals in the health centers. But if you are coughing and you must use face mask, you use it so that you don't let the droplets go out.
Thank you very much, Dr. Poka, for coming on Panorama. All right, wish you all the best. We'll take a break here and Panorama will continue shortly.
Coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is spreading at an alarming rate all over the globe, including Nigeria. With the number of infected persons in Nigeria increasing daily, prevention is better than cure. Coronavirus has no cure. The virus spreads from one person, who affects two persons, and by the time the affected person is isolated, the two persons have affected four, and it keeps spreading. You must take preventive measures to save yourself and that of the people around you. Always wash your hands with soap and water. Put distance between yourself and others. Whenever you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth. Clean and disinfect surfaces. Stay at home if you're sick and contact the proper authorities. Together, we can cut down the spread of the coronavirus. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest TV network.
Back. Let's now join Rinred Silvanus Lord, who is in town, to hear from some Nigerians how they are keeping safe.
Yes, Caleb. I'm right here at the city center in Jos to find out the various measures people are adopting as prevention against the dreaded COVID-19. So what measures have you been taking?
If you look at me, you know that I'm having my mouth cover here, that I'm hanging. And also I try everything possible to avoid a crowded place so that I don't contact the disease. At the same time, I have my hand wash at home. That even in my store, I have my hand wash that I used to wash my hand every minute of the day, so that all this disease don't come to me.
What I'm doing is, as I'm using sanitizer, my hand doesn't go to my face.
And I make sure my hands are always clean. I wash my hands daily. Even after my daily job, when I get home, I wash my hands. I use the sanitizer all the time.
If I remove my clothes
clothes at that moment. I have to keep them, not mixing them with other clothes in my wardrobes and some other things. For the next day I have to wash them, because I will not remove and keep this. I have to keep it far from a distance and take my bath before at least sleeping in the night.
Covering your nose, I feel that is not the thing that will prevent the sickness, because when you are sleeping, you see a hair brace. So you just praying and tied up your environment.
Make sure that you sanitize your hands, and if you know people that you have handshake with or whatsoever, we are taking that conscious because we don't want to be affected with the virus.
The other preventive measures against the virus is to maintain distance between people. So if you have them, so if the further apart people are, the safer they are in terms of transmission. So if you have someone that has, if you maintain social distance, you are not likely to be able to transmit it, even if you have a case of coronavirus infection. What we mean by social distance actually is maintaining 6 feet, distance of 6 feet. Between that's 6 feet is, if you think of 6 feet in terms of the height of an average person. So if you maintain that distance between you and the next person, then we believe that it will help to prevent the virus.
That's all from here, Caleb. Back to you.
Religious and traditional leaders have stated or have appealed for calm in the face of panic across the country as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. They enjoined Nigerians to renew their faith and remain steadfast in prayers, advising them to adhere to rules set by medical and government officials to help fight the pandemic.
Christians are known for praying at good and bad times. These are bad times, and this calls for more prayers. But we also need to be strategic in our behavior. The medical experts are advising us on what to do and what not to do. We must be attentive to their counsel. Christians must also comply with the regulations that the federal government and state governments are giving us.
We, as Jamaatul Nasr Islam, are completely 100% behind those restrictions made by government. It was done in our own interests, and I appeal to each and everyone to please follow those restrictions, particularly the issue of being in crowded places, more than 50 at a time. This is just another trial from the Almighty. And panicking will not get us anywhere. We are to turn back to our Creator, asking Him for forgiveness, doing what is right, forgiving our neighbors. All the wrongs that we have done, let's try to correct them.
And that's it on News Panorama that came to you from Jos Network Center. We thank you for your time.